Now inside of the products.php, first thing we're going to do, we need to take one parameter from the URL, which will be action equals URL get param called action. And now we are going to create a switch statement, and our parameter will be action. So the first one will be case at, then we have break, and obviously for case at we will require once the file inside of the products folder called at.php. Okay, if we copy all this, put it underneath, next one will be added, and that will be added.php, copy it, paste underneath, then we have added feld, which will be basically added feld. So if we create it here as well, copy the same thing, I'm going to create a few new lines so we can shift it up a little bit. Okay, after added feld, we're going to have added no upload. And let's basically copy the name of the file as well to be the same. Then we'll have, after added no upload, edit, which will also be edit.php. Copy it, paste it underneath, edit it, which basically indicates that we've edited file successfully. Then we go further, after edited, we will have edited failed. The same for the file name. Edited failed. Then we have edited no upload. Okay, after this we will have remove. And after remove we will have a default action, which will basically require once our default list, which is inside of the products folder, and list.php. Okay, so now as you can see, we obviously need to close our so I've forgotten to put the single quote here, obviously. Okay, now our products.php file is ready. What we need to do next is create all these files. So first of all, obviously products folder. So we need to create inside of the pages new folder called products, and inside of this file folder we create a new file called add.php. Can close it for now. Then we have added.php. Fine. Then we have added feld .php. Then we have added no upload .php. Then we have edit .php, edited, edited feld, edited no upload, we have remove, and the last one is a list. Okay, so now we've got the entire structure ready. We can close our products.php file, and let's move to the next video and start working with our list.php. Now let's open a list.php file and start with the header and footer. So require once, and we're going to require template folder underscore header. And then underneath, we're going to require the footer. Once we've got this, let's start with the heading, H1 products. And we're going to start with the form, with action, left blank, method get this time. Then we have a table with cell padding 0, cell spacing 0, border 0 as well, and a class assigned to it as tbl_insert. I'm going to close the browser here. Okay, first table row will have th product, then td with the input type text, name srch, id srch as well, value we'll leave blank for now, and then class will be fld / and closing input tag. After this we will have td with the label for btn art, class sbm blue fll, and between the label tags input type submit, id btn_art, class btn, and value search, which is basically our search button. Okay, now around the products we could also put the label for srch. Make sure that if we click on it, it's going to put the pointer inside of our text field. Okay, if we save this, go back to our browser. Now if we refresh, you can see we've got our products page together with the search form. So that's all fine. If we go back, and after our form, I'm going to create a few new lines. After our form, if we create div with the class def br, then space br_td, which is basically the dividing space between the form and the list of products. Now we have a paragraph with the a tag href, which will be /admin /page equals products ampersand action equals art. So this is going to link to our art page, art.php, basically new product. This will be the link for us if we want to add a new product. We'll have to click on this first. Then we have table, cell padding 0, cell spacing 0, border 0, and class this time it's going to be tbl repeat. Inside of this table we're going to start with the tr as well. We have first heading with the class call_5, and it's going to be id. Next one will be just th without any classes, product. Next one th class call_15, and then space ta_r, and we have remove heading, and let's copy this one, paste underneath. This one will be call_5 with tar as well, only the heading will be edit. After this we create another table row with td, another td, and now if we copy both of them, we only need to add class ta_r, which is basically aligning text to the right, the same about the last one. And that's it in this video. So let's move to the next one and start filling these fields up. Right at the beginning of our list.php file, if we create a few new lines before our require ones function, let's create object catalog, which will be new catalog. Now we are going to create a variable called srch, which will basically get the value from the URL, get param called srch, which is basically going to only occur if we've pressed the button in our search form, which sends basically the srch value through the URL parameter, because we're using get methods here. Okay, now we're going to check if is an empty srch, else something else. So we start with is an empty products equals object catalog, get all products, and we pass in the srch as parameter. Then we have empty variable, which will have a message: there are no results matching your searching criteria, and full stop, and that's it. Okay, now if we copy this entire thing and we pass it in, this time without the srch parameter, same function, the message will be slightly different as well. There are currently no records. Okay, so that's all fine. Now if we open our browser, go to our classes folder and open catalog file, catalog.php. Okay, now if we can close basically this browser, I'll put this whole thing here a little bit too tight so we can create a little bit larger spaces so we can distinguish between the functions. Okay, and after the last one, to the last method, we create a few more so we can see things clearer here. And we're going to start with public function get all products. We pass one parameter, which is srch, which by default will be null. Now SQL statement equals select all from this underscore table underscore 2. And now actually we're gonna keep it okay, this underscore table underscore 2, and now we close the statement here with the semicolon right at the end, and now we check if is an empty srch, then srch, we need to filter it, this db escape srch, and we concatenate our SQL statement with SQL.equal, we start space where name like percentage and then srch. We're using this percentage because we want to get any part of the string to match this this parameter, basically the value from this parameter, or id equals, and between the quotes, srch, and between the quotes and curly braces, but just a normal single quotes. Okay, then semicolon right after this, and after the if statement we also concatenate, which means it's going to apply to both situations, whether there is srch value or not. Space order by, and we're going to order by date, descending order. Okay, right after this, rows, actually we can straight away return it, return this db fetch all, and we pass our SQL as parameter. Okay, so that's our get all products, so we can close this catalog for now. Let's move to the next video and continue with our list.php file. Okay, now after our if-else statement, if we create the instance of the paging class object, paging equals new paging, and we are passing our products array, plus we're setting up the number of displayed records per page to 5. Now we are going to create rows equals object paging get records. Okay, so now we're going to have our records here. After this, we are going to create object paging underscore URL. We're setting up the URL basically, and we have in between the single quotes or double quotes /admin. Then we have single quote dot object paging underscore URL. This is to make sure that obviously we are adding admin to the URL itself. Okay, so that's it in this part. Let's move down here, and we start after our new product link before the table. We start with PHP if is an empty rows, means we have some records here ready to be displayed on the list. Then after the closing table tag, we start with else. So we need to close obviously this curly brace, else, then open the curly brace and this closing one separately right after. So else, actually we can, because we're using a variable here, we can actually use it like that and simply echo it. So it's going to be echo in between the single quotes opening paragraph. Then we have we need to concatenate this with empty variable, and then closing paragraph and a semicolon right at the end. Okay, now going back to the table, heading stays as it is. Then we go to the table cells where we start with for each loop rows as product. Okay, and we close this for each loop here right at the bottom after the closing tr tag. So this is our loop. Now we're going to be using products to identify different values from a database. So in the first cell, PHP echo product, and we want the product ID. If we copy this whole thing, then we're going to have product name, but we should really use a helper and encode HTML to make sure that obviously we don't get any funny symbols displayed on the page. Okay, after this we have the remove link, so it's going to be href, and the URL will be admin / page equals products ampersand action equals remove, and ampersand again ID equals, and now we have product ID right after this. So if we move this link a little bit lower here, so you can see obviously we then have to close the opening a tag, remove, and closing a tag basically. So if we put it like that, so remember to obviously assign the ID to the ID parameter, ID of the product. Then we move to the next one, which will be edit link. Let's put on a new line as well. It's going to be href, similar situation, admin / page equals products ampersand. Then we have action. This time it's going to be edit. Then we have ID parameter equals ID as before. Then obviously we need to close it, edit, and closing a tag. And I think we're done with all this. That's fine. After our for each loop and after the table basically, we're going to display our paging. So echo object paging get paging. Okay, now if we save the file, go to our browser, refresh the page. Oops, we've got some problem here. Pages list line 78, which is here. Okay, we didn't close the PHP tag. Save it, go back, and there we are. All of our products together with the paging. Basically, you can browse through the products. We can see the entire list, which all works fine. Obviously, we now need to create the remove and edit pages, add new product, but also search, because if we click on search now, nothing really happens. If we type some keywords, whatever, nothing happens at all. So let's move to the next video and start working on our search form. Back in our list.php file, after the opening form tag, let's type opening PHP tag echo URL get params for number 4 search. This is our new method. Then we pass array with srch as first parameter, and then paging and the key, which is used basically for the paging, and closing, another closing bracket, semicolon, and closing PHP. Now paging, as you may remember, maybe not, paging key is basically a private property, so we won't be able to access this outside of the class. So what we need to do is basically change it scope to public. So if we go to our paging class, private static key, so we need to make it public so that we can actually access it outside of this class. So if we close the file, now if we open our URL class, we can close the browser, scroll right to the bottom, because we're going to be creating new static method, which will be called, if we go back to our list, get params for search. So public static function get params for search. We will be taking just one parameter, which is remove equals null by default. And now self get all, as we need to get all of the parameters from the URL first. Now out will be a new empty array, and we start for each self underscore params s key equals value. We should also first check if params is an empty. So if we copy this, so if is an empty params, then perform this loop. Otherwise, if params was empty and we start looping, we would get an error as well. So it's always best to obviously make sure that we don't get any errors unnecessarily. Okay, so now we check if is an empty, remove, which means if we got some parameters sent through, then remove is array, we check in if it's array, remove, then we simply pass it as it is. Otherwise, we will put remove to array, because we need to make sure that remove is array basically. Okay, so now that we have this sorted out, we check if isn't in array key through which we are currently looping, remove. Then we push to our out array input type hidden, and it's going to have a name with the key basically name. Then we have value. Let's continue. Value, which will be the value as well from this specific loop, and then closing input tag and semicolon right at the end. We could obviously put this whole thing, and most probably this is what we're going to do to make sure that we can see it better. Input, let's create the variable input, start like this, and basically finish this here, then concatenate this input lower here. So we've got everything actually visible. You may not have to, depending on your screen resolutions. Obviously I'm recording in 960 by 600, so obviously that this is why we have so much, quite a few lines of wrapping around basically. So let's assign this input now to our out array. Then obviously if remove is empty, we do else statement, and we do basically the same thing, only this time we don't have to make sure whether it's we don't have to check whether it's isn't inside of the remove array. So that's all fine. And now right at the end, after our for each loop, we return implode. We're going to be imploding without anything, basically no spaces even, so out our out array, and that's all done. So we are now ready to move on to the next video. Before we test our search form, let's also apply a sticky form field to our search field basically. But what we're going to do here is simply PHP echo strip slashes, and we're going to just put srch variable into it. That should do the trick. We don't have to use sticky text fields inside of the class, basically. Because we're using, obviously, now rather than post, we're using get. That's going to be much easier because the value is going to be in the URL anyway. So now if we save the file, go to our browser, refresh, and if we search for something, let's say 50, and you can see we get an error, unknown colon 50. I think I know what it is. So obviously this is our statement inside of the catalog class. So we need to open our catalog class file. We've got catalog here inside of the classes folder. If we scroll right to the bottom to our last statement, as you can see, I put backslashes against the value, which obviously should be just a normal single quotes. Sorry, not backslashes, back quotes rather than single quotes. Because obviously when you've got back quotes, they refer to the column names. If you've got a single quotes, they refer to the values. So obviously if we save the file now and refresh, you can see it gave us the record which has 50 in the name. If we put something, let's say 2, these all have to, if not inside of the title, as you can see, we're looking for the name and we're looking for the ID as well. We have we've got actors here as well. So as you can see, like with the percentage symbol, they will basically take any occurrence of the string which you are putting into a search. So that's fine with our search engine. Now, one thing I've realized, if we look at the front end, if we copy the URL and just go to the front end on any of the pages, you can see our headings aren't bolded as they are here, and I'm pretty sure we've missed somewhere the tag. So if we didn't close the strong tag somewhere. So if we go back to our application, open the templates by inside of the admin folder, we can close classes for now, close the catalog. If we open our template and header, if we look at our header in div, we start the strong tag here, logged in as, then we have the name filtered through the get full name front method, and then obviously we don't close it. So we need to, after this one, we should close here a strong, the strong tag. Obviously else statement won't have any strongs because it's just login link. So that's fine. If we close, save the file, and now refresh the page, you can see everything looks a little bit better. So that's all in this video. Let's move to the next one. Another tiny mistake which I've made, obviously if we click on the remove page, we get a blank page, which is fine, everything works. If we click on an add new product, we'll link in properly as well to the add products page. But if we click on edit, as you can see, we have edit, then semicolon ID equals 19, which obviously is wrong. So if we go back to our list.php before we finish with this file, as you can see, edit has only semicolon. Perhaps you put it correctly and you've got ampersand there, but you should be basically and AMP and semicolon. And now if we save the file, we go back to products, click on edit, we are redirected to the edit page, which is cool. Okay, so now we can close our list.php, open a browser, and open add.php file, as this is the page we're going to be working on in this video, basically creating the page for adding new products. So as usual, let's start with the opening PHP tag, require once, and we go for template underscore header.php, copy the entire thing, and obviously we also need to require footer.php. Now we are going to put the heading h1 products colon or 2 colons, basically add, so that we know within which section we are currently. Now we're going to start with the form. So we have form, action, left blank, method, post this time, enc type, and this is going to be multi-part form hyphen data. Now, why do we need to use enc type? Enc type is used whenever you're uploading any files, and this form will have one upload field for the image of the product, basically. So remember about this. Without this property, you won't be able to upload any files to the server. Then we go for the table. As usual, cell padding, null, cell spacing, same thing, border as well. And we're going to use a class table insert. Okay, we start with the first table row. Inside of this table row, we'll have a heading th with the label for category. And in between the label tags, we type category, colon, and then star symbol, which basically means that this is the mandatory field. Then we have TD, table cell, and we'll have select, name, category, ID category as well. We also need a class, sorry, at the end, class will be SEL. And in between the select tags, we're gonna do option, value, null, and select 1, and help, which is basically generating 3 dots. We'll leave it like this for now. We're going to populate the list of categories from a database a little bit later on, and basically display all these options here. Now we go for the next table row. We're going to have TH will be with the label for name, and we simply have a name, colon, and it's also required, so again, white character, which is a star symbol. Okay, then we go for the TD, and we do input type text, name, and ID, name as well. Then we have value, left blank, class FLD, / and closing the tag. After the name, we'll have a description. So let's create, actually, do you know what? I'm going to create extra new lines here as well. Okay, TR, we have TH with the label for description, and it's going to be description, colon, and star. Then we have TD, and here we're going to have text area with the name description, ID description, calls, left blank, rows, left blank. On the new line we put class TAR fixed, and after this we close the text area tag. Okay, the next one will be for the price, field for the price. So you have TR, TH, label for price, colon, star, TD. Inside of TD we have input type text, name price, ID price. We have value left blank, class FLD price, / and closing the tag. If we move it like this so that we can see it a bit better. Okay, and our last field will be for the image. So TR first, obviously. Then we have TH, which will have non-breakable space, and TD. We have sorry, it's not going to be non-breakable space. Wrong. Label for image. Image isn't required, so we can leave it like this. Then we have input tag in the table cell, type file, name image, ID image, and size, let's make it 30. Then / and closing tag. And now the last table row with the submit button, so TR, and we start with TH. Now we're going to have non-breakable space, and table cell with the label for BTN, class SBM, space SBM underscore blue. Then we have FL underscore L, and between the label input type submit, ID BTN, class BTN, value at, and then / and closing the tag. And that's everything in this video. Let's move to the next one and start working with this form. Now let's move to the top of the file, create a few new lines before our require once function, and we start with object form equals new form. And we also create the instance of the validation class, so object valid equals new validation. And we're passing the instance of the form class to it. Now we create the instance of the catalog class as well. So object catalog equals new catalog. And now we create a array category equals object catalog get categories. Okay, now that we have categories available to us, we can scroll down to our form and first of all check which if we obviously have any categories. So if we scroll after our option select one, we're going to check if question mark PHP if, and it's going to be is an empty category. Actually, we could call it categories as it's an array. Let's do it. Let's do it now. Categories, and also change the name here. Categories. If it's an empty, then we're gonna go for each loop categories as cat, just to make it shorter. And then obviously we need to close for each statement. And inside of the for each statement, we're gonna start with option value, which will be PHP echo cat ID. We can close this opening, and then we obviously choose the option to close it. Now after this value, we also will have to add sticky form fields, but that just in just a second. Obviously we need to display the name of the categories, so PHP echo, let's make a helper encode HTML, and we put cat name, which is category name basically. So if we save it now, go back to our browser, click on new product, you can see we've got category, and we have all these categories displayed here the way they basically should be displayed. So if we go back, now we need to apply obviously our sticky form fields after our option value equals, after the closing double quote, we're going to type echo object form instance sticky select, and we pass in the first parameter, which is the name of the field, so it's category. Then we have value cat ID, through which we are currently looping, and then just semicolon and close the PHP tag. We can actually move this one here right after that. So that's all fine. If we save this, go back, now refresh, everything's fine. If we select one of the categories and click on add, you can see it stays inside of our select field. The same if we change it back to select one. So let's move to the next video. So now let's apply sticky form fields to all of the remaining fields. If we go back to our editor, scroll down to the name, let's put the name on the new line and simply type echo object form sticky text and a parameter, which is the name of the field. In this case, it's going to be a name. If we copy this entire thing, go to our description, because it's a text area, obviously it hasn't got a value, so we put it in between the opening and closing text area tags. Now passing the parameter as well, copy it, then go to the value of the price, obviously change the name to price. We don't need anything for the image, so that's our sticky form fields. Now let's also create the validation messages, or display basically the validation messages. So if we go to our select, before the select, we're going to go PHP echo object valid validate, and we put the name, which is category. Okay, semicolon and close PHP tag. Copy this. Then we go to our name before the input. Obviously, parameter has to be a name. Copy it. We go above our text area, description, and the same for price. And let's put one for the image, even though it's an optional field. We may at some point decide to obviously make it mandatory. So now if we save the file, go back to our browser, refresh the page, resend, click on add, we can't see actually any validation messages. And this is because obviously we didn't call is valid method inside of the validation class yet, so obviously the messages aren't fitted through basically, or any values. So if we go back, scroll up to the top, and let's move to the next video and start actually processing our form. Okay, so before our require once, right after our categories array, if we start with if object form is post, and we're going to take one of the fields, we take name for instance, and now we're going to start with object valid. We define the expected underscore expected fields, so equals array, and we're going to define which fields are basically expected from this form, so category. Then we have name, then we have description, and we also have price. The reason why we're not putting image into this expected array is because it's not part of the post array. It's actually part of a different array which is called files. So that's why post wouldn't even recognize it basically. So if we scroll down, let's copy this entire expected array, paste it underneath, and let's just change the name to required. We're going to require all of these fields. These fields obviously we can leave it as it is. That's all fine. Now we're going to check if object valid is valid method, which basically now checks whether the validation came through okay. So if we save the file at this stage and go to our form, let's just click on products, go to new product and hit on add. You can see we've got all these errors, and now these errors are here because obviously inside of the validation class we don't have these indexes for the validation messages. So let's go back to our validation class, open the browser, sorry, not this one, classes validation.php, and you can see our message array. We can actually close the browser so that we can see it a little bit better. And now we're missing, which ones are we missing? If we go back to the browser, we need category. So we obviously need to go back and just, oops, wrong. Okay, category. What kind of message do we want for category? Let's make it, please select the category. Okay, then we are also missing name. So the next one will be name. Please provide a name, comma. Then we also need description and price. Okay, so you have description message will be please provide a description, and price, please provide a price. We don't do comma after the last one, so that's fine. If we save this file now, refresh the page, resend it, you can see our validation messages have been displayed successfully now. We select any of the fields, put some values into it. You can see that our sticky form fields are also keeping the values. And obviously, if I put this one, nothing's gonna happen. We just get rid of all the messages, and this is when the form would be processed basically, and all the data would be inserted to the database. Obviously, file would be uploaded, and so on. So let's move to the next video. So now, after we've checked if obviously all of the fields are valid, we can start with if object catalog, and a new method will be add product, and we pass in object valid post array. So all these fields are passed to our add product method. So let's create this method, because obviously we haven't got it yet. So if we open our browser, open our catalog class, we can close the browser now, scroll right to the bottom, and start with, if we create a few new lines just to make sure that we can see everything clearly here. Okay, so now we start with public function add product, and we have params set to null. By default, we check if is an empty params, and after this return false, because obviously if they were empty, that means we haven't passed anything and we couldn't insert anything to the database. So first of all, we're going to add the date to the params array. So let's define as date equals and helper set date, which will basically assign the current date and time to it. Now this db prepare insert, and we pass the params, which basically prepares all of the inserts into arrays inside of the db class, puts them into two separate arrays, and now we have out equals this db insert method, and we pass in this underscore table to indicate to which table we want to put all these records. And now it's simply this underscore id equals this db underscore id. So we've populated the record, the ID of the record, which has been basically added to the database. So we got this this ID now inside of this property underscore ID, and we return out basically, which is true or false. So that's all inside of the add product method. If we go back, once the record has been added to the database, we are instantiating a new class upload. Object upload equals new upload. This class will take care of uploading the image which has been selected inside of the form. So let's move to the next video and have a look at this specific class. So now let's create our new class called upload. So if we open the browser, go to our classes folder, create a new file called upload with the extension .php. Now we start with opening PHP tag, class upload. Okay, a few new lines. We're gonna start with a few properties. Public underscore files equals array. Then we have public underscore overwrite equals false. Then we have public underscore errors equals array. Errors. Okay, and then we have public underscore names equals array. Okay, we start with our constructor as well for the class. So public function construct, and we start with this get uploads, the new method inside of this class. If we close the browser so that we can see a little bit better. Now copy the name, a few new lines obviously. I'm going to create a few more, make sure that we can actually scroll up a little bit. Okay, we start with public function get uploads. Inside of this method, we're first going to check if isn't empty files. As you may remember, I told you that post doesn't actually contain files from the upload field, and this is because we're using a completely different array which is called underscore files. This is why we also have to include this enc type multi-part form data, because we're dealing with posts and we're dealing with files arrays. So now if it isn't empty, then for each underscore files as key equals value, this underscore files, we pass the key as index equals value. So basically we put in all these values from the files array into the files array, our property of the class. So this is get uploads method. Then let's create a few new lines, and we're going to create another one. This time this one will be called public function upload, and we're going to pass one parameter which will be the path to the upload folder, by default null, and we're going to continue with this method in the next video. So now we're going to start first with if isn't empty path, then end is there, which basically checks if it's a directory basically, if it exists and so on. Then is end isn't empty this underscore files array. Then we're going to use our for each loop, this files as key equals value. Okay, first thing we need to do is we need to check the name of the file if it doesn't contain any spaces, apostrophes, or in other words any illegal characters for the file name. So name variable equals helper clean string, and we pass in we pass in value and name index to it. Okay, so if we open our helper class, if we close the browser now, scroll right to the bottom, and let's create a new class called public static function clean string, and we're taking one parameter, which is basically the name of the file, so by default is null. Now we are checking if isn't empty name, then we return, and we use string to lower to make sure that all of the characters are in a lowercase, and then we use preg replace, which is a regular expression we're going to use here. The first parameter is our regular expression basis, so it's going to be / square bracket, then this symbol arrow up, then we have a lowercase a hyphen z, z, and then we have uppercase a hyphen z, then we have 0-9, then we have dot, closing square bracket, /, and that's our regular expression. Then we want to replace things which aren't basically matching this with a hyphen. Then we have the third parameter, the string, which we want to replace these things in. So obviously it's going to be our name parameter. Okay, and that's everything inside of this function, inside of this method, rather. And if we go back to upload class, now we are checking if this underscore override equals false, and is file path ds, which is the directory separator, and the name. If this kind of file exists, and we've set override parameter property to false. So now, if obviously we have override to false, that means we don't want the file to be overwritten if the same name, if the file with the same name already exists. So we're going to create prefix equals, and we're going to use current date and time in a format YMDH capital AIS, and we provide the second argument as time, which is a current time, and then rename the file name will be our prefix dot, and we're going to concatenate it with the hyphen and dot the name of the file. Okay, after this if statement, we check if isn't move uploaded file, which is basically moving the file from a temporary directory to the destination directory, value tmp underscore name, which is the name of the file which has been temporary name of the file which has been actually uploaded to the server. Then we have path dot ds dot name. So if it didn't upload, then we have this underscore errors, and we're going to simply put the key into it, which is basically the field name it's going to be. Otherwise, after this if, this underscore names equals name of the file which we've generated through this method. Then after this if names, which is after our for each loop, we simply return empty this underscore errors. If errors array is empty, then this obviously it's true, otherwise it's false. And if the first statement, this first if statement isn't successful, then obviously return false. Okay, so that's our method done. Let's move to the next video. So now going back to our art.php file, after we've instantiated our class, we can now check if object upload method, and we need to pass the path to our upload file folder. If we open the browser, scroll down on the front end, we have media and a catalog folder, which we store inside of the session, we store inside of a constant inside of our config file. So if we open our inc folder, config.php, if we scroll down, you see there is a catalog path which stores this path basically. So if we use this constant here, we can close our config, we can close our browser as well, So if it uploaded successfully, then we create object we use object catalog, and we use update product method. We're going to pass two parameters. First one will be array of the fields. We only will be updating image field, which will have the value of object upload, and we're taking the names and the index 0. As you can see, we are actually, if we open the browser again and open our upload class, we are actually looping here through a number of images. We're using for each statements. Obviously, we can upload more than just one image if we wanted to. So this class is capable of uploading more than one image. But because we're obviously uploading only one, we want the first one, which is a 0 index, and the name of the first one to be passed to this specific method. So we have this array with the name as a first inside of the array as a first parameter, then comma, and we do object catalog underscore ID, which is basically the ID of this specific product after inserting it to the database. So we have this one. Now we obviously, once everything's been updated, everything's fine, we go to helper, redirect, and we're going to redirect them to /admin, and then concatenate it with URL get current. We're going to pass the array as parameter, and we're going to pass action, because this is what we want to remove from the URL, and ID. After this one, we're going to concatenate this with and symbol action equals added, and a single quote, and then semicolon right at the end. So this is if the image has been uploaded. Else, we're going to redirect them to a different page. We copy only the helper, because obviously we don't need to update the product. We're going to redirect them to the action added no hyphen upload. Okay, so that's what's going to happen when the product has been added successfully, obviously. Now if it hasn't been added, so after if we do else statement, we want to redirect the user to added hyphen failed. Okay, so that's everything inside of this file. Now what we need to do, obviously we need to create this update product method. So let's have a look at this one in the next video. Now it's time to have a look at update product method inside of our catalog class. So if we open the browser and open our catalog class, now if we close the browser and scroll right to the bottom, because we're going to be creating a new method, okay, a few new lines. Okay, and we start with a public function update product. We pass in two parameters, params, which will equal null by default, and ID, which will also equal null by default. So first we check if is an empty params and is an empty ID. Then this db prepare update params passed as parameter, and then return this db update, and we have this underscore table underscore 2 and the ID of the specific record. So that's everything inside of this function. We now save all of these files. We can close all of them. Our file is now ready. So if we go to our browser, refresh the page, no errors. So obviously no errors is good. Now let's select the category. Let's try some test product, some description. Let's say some description about our test product. Let's put the price of £20, and if I now select the image from the desktop, it's the first one, okay, and click on add. Wow, we've got some errors obviously. And what are these errors? Call to undefined method dbase prepare update. Okay, that's just simply telling us that we haven't got this prepare update method inside of our dbase class. So let's move back, open our dbase class, let's see, we have prepare insert and we have insert, but we have prepare update. Most probably misspelled the method itself. So if we go back to our add class, sorry, to our catalog class, scroll down, have a look at our statement here, prepare update I've got here. Okay, so it's obviously, so if I update our database rather than this one, the catalog class. Okay, so that should work fine now. If we refresh the page, we've got another one, get current, call to undefined method URL get current. So if we go to URL class, if I open this browser, it's going to show me all of the, we have get current URL here, which is obviously what we should be using. So if we go back to our catalog, sorry, it wasn't a catalog, it was inside of the our add.php, replace get current with get current URL. Okay, now if we go back and refresh, there we are, the product has been added. If we try and go to the front end, refresh, oops, okay, we get, okay, this is not exactly what we want. We just want e-commerce, which is on our local machine. If I go to our categories, you can see, because I've refreshed a few times, first time was without the image, because the image hasn't been uploaded, simply because one of our methods wasn't there. Then obviously it's uploaded twice the same image. So if we click on this product to see the description as well, we can add this product to the basket as well. £20 it was. If we add this one, as you can see, 40. So we don't need so many of them, so you can remove some of them. And we're going to learn how to remove products from the catalog in the following videos. Now let's create all of these pages to which we may be redirected after we've added the new record, basically. So let's start with added. Added will have opening PHP tag and a closing one. We're gonna start with URL variable, which will basically store the URL to the list of pages. Admin in between the single quotes, and then URL get current URL, and we're passing array as parameter, array which will store all of the parameters we want to remove from the URL. So action and ID we want to remove. Okay, now we're going to require once our header, so template underscore header.php. If we copy this one after the closing PHP tag, let's open another one, type this, paste this one in, and simply replace the header with the footer. Okay, after this, if we start with the h1 tag, products, add, and then paragraph, the new record has been added successfully, br tag to create a new line, and now ahref, and we're going to pass our URL, so echo URL, and then we close the opening a tag, go back to the list of products, and closing a tag. Okay, so this page is now finished. If we save it, refresh our added page, you can see everything is displayed the way we want it to be. And then obviously if we click on go back to the list of products, we are taken to the list of products. As you can see, 3 products have been added because we refreshed the browser 3 times. Now if we go back, if we copy the entire content, open added no upload, paste it in, we need to amend the statement slightly, so the new record has been added successfully without the image. And we can save it, then obviously select everything, copy, we can close these 2 files and go to added field. If we paste it in, we can remove now the URL from the top and just put this header on one line. Our statement will now say there was a problem, and we've removed the whole thing actually. There was a problem adding this record. Full stop and br. Please contact administrator. And we can save this file and close it. Okay, let's move to the next video. Before we start removing products, let's also learn how we can edit them. So open our edit.php file as well as our newly created art.php. Copy the entire content of art.php and paste it inside of the edit.php, as they will be very similar in structure. So now if we scroll up to the top of our new edit.php file, first of all, we're going to add the new variable, which will be id equals, and we're going to take parameter id from the URL. So URL get param, and we want id from the URL. Okay, now we first check if is an empty id. That means if this parameter has been provided, we're going to continue with our page. That's the condition that must have been met, basically. We won't be moving on if we don't have ID. Let's just have a look if everything's fine here. Okay, that's cool. Obviously, I need to close this browser because we can't see much. Okay, so that seemed to be fine. Now, obviously, I need to close this. Sorry, if we scroll right to the bottom, and after our require once footer, we need to put the closing curly brace. So if ID is in the URL, then we won't display anything. So if we now open our browser, click on edit page, we have ID, so you can see basically our art page, which has been copied into our edit page. If we remove the ID and now hit enter, we obviously get the blank page. You can obviously put some error message or something, but let's leave it like this for now. So now if we go back, we have our object catalog. We're going to move it up above our form and valid, object form and object valid. So we have our object catalog. Now we're going to use object catalog to find the product by this specific ID. So product equals object catalog get product, and we pass this ID to this specific method. Now we're using this product array, and we check if is an empty product. That means the product has been found actually in the database, and again we're going to indent this content of the file. There we go. So that's all fine, and obviously we need to add the closing bracket after the require one, so we need to indent this one and close this one. So we basically check twice if there is ID in the URL, then if the product by this specific ID exists. So that's, now that we've done all of these checks, we can proceed with our, we can actually get these categories from here. We can proceed with our form and put these categories here under those two instances of the classes, basically. So now we check if is post name, which is fine. We have all the same fields, so this can stay. Then as is valid, we obviously won't be adding product, we will be updating product. So it's update product, the method which we have here as well. Then we have we instantiating our upload class. We have the same upload. We have object catalog, update product. We're passing image name exactly the same way, except this time, because we're not adding, we won't have this underscore ID inside of the catalog class. We will simply use our variable ID populated from the URL, which is indicating basically what ID of this record, this specific record is. And now, if everything's been fine, we're going to redirect them to edited. Then if the record has been updated without the image, it's going to be edited no upload. And obviously if record hasn't been updated successfully, they will be redirected to edited -feld. Then we have our heading, which will be rather than add will be edit. Multipart, all this stuff stays the same way, except our sticky form fields will have a third parameter, which is basically the product category for the specific record of the category. Then if we copy this, basically populate it from a database so that we can indicate which ones should be selected or what value should be by default in the field. Then for the sticky text name, and name field, we will have the name field value. Then for the description, obviously description as well of the product. If we copy this, then we have our price as well. Same thing, obviously remember to change the index. For the image, we obviously don't need to put any sticky form fields, so that should all be just fine now. So let's move to the next video. Now we also need to obviously update the value of the submit button to update. Now if we save the file, scroll up to the top. One other thing which you should do after we've uploaded a new image, obviously, we should also remove the old one. So if upload was successful, let's now check if is file, and we're going to use our catalog path. So if we copy it, paste it down here, DS, and obviously we take in now product. I think it was product, wasn't it? Product, and we take the image, which is basically the name of the image. Scroll up. Oops. Okay. Then we simply want to unlink this image, which basically removes the image from the server. So the new image has been uploaded. Let's remove the old one. So we obviously keep our server tidy, and obviously we don't have any redundant files on it. Okay, so that's all fine. Now we can save the file, go to our browser, refresh our edit page. As you can see, the ID of the record which we'll be editing is 22. Now if we have a look at the images on the front end, if we mouse over, you can see we actually click on the product description, the 22 is this one. So if we now, let's update the image, let's change it to something else, and hit, actually before we hit update, let's put a test product update 2, let's say. And now if we hit update, we are going to edit it failed for some reason. It doesn't say us obviously what's happened, so let's go back to our file here, edited failed. The only way to get here is if we didn't successfully update the product, executes update product method basically. So if we have a look at our object post, valid object valid post, that seems to be fine. Okay, we've forgotten obviously one parameter here. Update takes two parameters, one of which is the ID of the record we're updating. So that's why it didn't execute successfully. So we need to pass this ID populated from the URL. If we now go back to edit this page again, let's change the text. Test product update 2. Now let's first try without the image. Edit it, no upload. It tells us that obviously record should be updated successfully. So if we refresh, we've got test product update 2, which updated successfully. Now we will go back and update the image as well. So if we browse for a new image and now hit update, you can see it's edited, which means image as well as the content has been updated. If we now refresh the page, you can see the new image has been loaded. If we go back to the list, the new image is also displayed on the front end. Now with the upload, we didn't create any code to resize the images. This is because I've already created a series of the videos on how to create a photo gallery with image magic, PHP and so on. So if you really want to learn how to resize the images when they uploaded, please refer to this series. Now I think that we've done our edited section. We obviously need to create all these edited pages with confirmations after the update. So let's have a look at this in the next video. Let's now have a look at the confirmation pages, which are edited, edited no upload, and edited failed. Let's open our added.php, copy the entire content as it's going to be very similar to the to this one. We can actually close the browser for now. And now, first of all these things at the top, they stay the same. Products, it's going to be edit, and then the record has been updated successfully, and go back to list of products, stays exactly the same. So if we now copy this, go to edited no upload, and we keep this one, but then it's gonna be comma, but without changing the image. Okay, again, select all this. We can close this one and edit it as well. Go to failed, and now we can remove this URL here. We can move our require ones onto one line, and now that we're gonna have a different message. Let's put this there. Was a problem updating this record, full stop, then new line, please contact administrator. Okay, and that's That's basically everything about editing pages and obviously all the confirmation content. Let's move to the next video when we actually removing the record. Now let's open the remove.php file inside of the products folder, and we're going to start with h1 products remove. After this, we're going to put the message inside of the paragraph. Are you sure you want to remove this record? Then new line, there is no undo, with the exclamation mark perhaps. And then another line where we're going to put a href, and we're going to display echo yes variable, which we'll create in just a second, and obviously the message will be yes. Then closing a tag, space, vertical line, then ahref echo no variable, and obviously no in between the opening and closing a tag. And that's it. We can put the full stop after. No, we don't have to really. Okay, now before heading, obviously we have our require once, which will be the header. So template underscore header.php. Now copy this, paste it underneath, and have it as footer. Okay, so that's fine. Now before the require once, a few new lines, and we start with id variable equals URL get param, and we're looking for id as well to obviously know, we need to know which record needs to be removed, and we check if is an empty id. Let's indent this PHP code here. Same about this one, because after that one we're going to close this if statement. Then we're going to create the object of the catalog class, catalog, and we have new catalog. And now we check, we create the product variable to which we assign the new product. Basically we check if this product exists, product by this specific ID. So object catalog get product, and we pass the ID. And now if isn't empty, I will take the name of this array now. If it isn't empty, that means the product has been found. Let's indent this one and that one as well, and close our if statement here. Okay, so if we found the product, what we're going to do next, and let's have a look at this in the next video. So if we found the product, then we create the yes variable, which will be the URL to the page where we want the user to be redirected, which will be admin. Then we concatenate with URL get current URL without any parameters passed this time, and then we add ampersand remove equals 1, which is basically tell us that yes, we want to remove it. Then no variable, actually let's close the browser so you can see it better, and we simply use JavaScript history.go -1, basically go back one page. So that's all fine. Obviously this will be later on put inside of the href parameter. Now let's create remove equals URL get param remove, which we are sending after someone clicked on the yes link. As you can see, it's got this parameter here. And now we check if isn't empty remove. Then we use our object catalog to call method remove product, and we pass the ID of this specific product. Alright, after this helper redirect, and we're going to be redirecting the visitor to admin, then concatenate this with URL. If we scroll up a little bit, 2 colons get current URL, and we want to remove array, we want to remove action, we want to remove ID, we want to remove remove parameter, we want to remove srch, which is a search parameter as well. And we also want to remove paging, and it was, I think it was paging key. Let's go back to our paging class. So it's just a key basically. So if there's any key, paging key basically in the URL, remove it as well. So we can close this method, this class, sorry. And that's it. So this is redirection. Otherwise, we're obviously gonna stay on the same page. So that's all fine. If we save the file, obviously we haven't got remove product method yet. So we're going to create this method in the following video. Now we're going to have a look at our remove product methods inside of the catalog class. So if we open a browser, open a catalog class file, we scroll right to the bottom and create a new method called public function remove product. We're going to be passing one parameter, which is the ID of the product. Now we check if is an empty ID. Otherwise, we're going to return false. Now we check product equals this get product, and we pass the ID. If is an empty product, if product has been found, then if is file, and we're going to check the file catalog underscore path dot ds, and now product, we check for the image. So if this file exists, then simply remove it. So using unlink method, we are removing the image from the server. After this SQL statement, delete from this underscore table underscore 2 where ID equals single quote, then concatenation this db escape ID, and concatenation with a single quote, and after double quote semicolon. Now return this db query and SQL as parameter. Obviously, if it was empty, we return false as well. Okay, so our remove product method is now done. If we go back to our remove file, we can close our catalog class. If we go back to the browser, go back to our list of product. If we click on the, if we go to the first page, let's say, click on the remove link, we got a few errors again. I suppose it's a simple misspelling again, catalog. So we've got catalog GUE. Okay, make sure that all of them, they have the same name. I tend to misspell things when I'm typing quickly. So if we save the file now, refresh, and now we obviously have yes, no. We don't want this to be no, we want this to be no. Okay, so again, refresh. If we click on no, we are taken back. If we click on yes, now we are removing this specific product is number 22. If we go back, you can see I'm clicking against the product 22. Remove. If we go to our browser, to our editor, sorry, if we open the browser, go to the media folder, catalog, we have several images there, reload catalog. That's going to be the one which is referring, if we open this, that's the one. That's the one which is referring to the specific product. Let's see if it's going to be removed when we click on yes. So yes, the product has been removed. It is gone from the front end. And now if we go back, refresh our catalog product, as you can see, the image is gone as well. So our remove script is now working. You can close it. And the next section is the categories of the products.